question 8. In question 8, students are expected to test a hypothesis which involved 2 columns of information. So this is an example of a 2-sample test. In question 8, you are being asked to determine if in fact there is a significant difference between 2 variances. So we are no longer looking at significant differences between the means or the average, but now we're looking at whether in fact the 2 samples have their variances equal or they have significant differences in their variances. So we're going to take a look at how do we test to find out if 2 populations have equal variance or they have unequal variance. That means whether in fact variations between the 2 variances is significant or not. So to test in this question, you are being asked to test at 5% significant level, test the hypothesis that there is a significant difference in the variances of weekly salaries of staff at Pickering and North York branch location. So we're going to figure out if the variances in Pickering's salary is significantly different from the variances in North York salaries. Again, variances looks at variations, and we are no longer looking at average or the mean. For that reason, the type of method that we required is going to be F-test. The F-test is used to compare differences between to compare variances between 2 columns of information or 2 populations in this regards. So to do this, we go to data analysis, and pick F-test 2 sample for variances. And the first input data, our first column of information will be selected for the first input of data. Our second data range will be our second column of information. So I have Pickering salaries selected in the first data input range. The North York salary is selected in the input range of our second input box. Now we have to make sure that we check on labels to indicate that the first row of information are labels, and as a result, Excel should not include them in our data set. The alpha is 5% as given by at 5% significant level, so that means our alpha has to be 0.05. The output range is where we have to place the location where we like to place our results. So the results, as it blinks, as the cursor blinks right in the output box, what we need to do is just look for a blank spot and select that location, and Excel is going to display the results right in that location. Click OK, and this is the results. So we are being asked, Excel calculate the variances of the 2 columns of information. So we need to know whether the variances, these 2 variances is essentially the same or there is a significant difference. Are they equal or not? So the null hypothesis will stipulate that the 2 variances are equal, and the alternative will say there is a significant difference in the variances of the 2 salaries between Pickering and North York. something to that effect. Now, you justify the choice of statistical method. This is going to be F-test, because F-test is what is utilized when testing for variances, differences in variances. So F-test is utilized to test the significance of variances between two sample groups. Determining the tail test, this is the F-test utilize right one tail, so it only looks at positive or upper tail test. In that regards, we just choose one tail to the right because this is F-test. Establish the critical value. The critical value here is given as 2.16, 2.168. Again, you don't have to, you can reduce the decimal places to 2 or 3 decimal places. That's fair enough. And to do that, just highlight and click, and that basically reduces the decimal places to 2 or 3. So this function will decrease the decimal places. That function will increase the decimal places. Now the E question, the sub-question E, asks for calculate the test value. To calculate the test value is given as your F test, which is 4.64. So we have the test value of 4.64, the critical value of 2.17. As a result, we can make a decision. The decision that we can make is that if the test value is more than the critical value, then we have to reject the null. That means the alternative is valid. In this case, yes, the test value of 4.64 is greater than the critical value of 2.17. As a result, the null will be rejected, and that makes the alternative hypothesis to be a valid statement, meaning that the two variances are not equal. There is a significant difference in the variances of the two salaries in the two locations. Now, the sub-question G asks for find and interpret the p-value. The p-value is given as this. That's your p-value. Your p-value do not necessarily have to be 0. So I'm going to expand a little bit on the decimal point here to see, right, because we can have an error of 0. So I'm just going to expand more decimal places to sort of give me that indication as to whether it's different from 0. And in fact, it does, right? It's the p-value, the actual p-value is 0.0079. Again, it can never be 0 because in any statistical test, there's always going to be a potential of an error, and the error cannot be 0. It has to be greater than 0. So in this case, we have it as 0.0079, and that is the error, type 1 error in our analysis. So the p-value is in fact 0.0079. If we compare that with the significant level of 5%, since the p-value is less than the significant level of of 5%, that is an indication, and that goes to confirm our decision to reject the null. So this is the explanation of the p-value, this is the interpretation of the narratives we can give to the p-value. So far as the p-value is less than the significant level, then that is an indication that goes to confirm that if we should reject the null, our error actually is less than what the maximum limit of 5%, which is the pre-established threshold that has been set. So essentially, that's it for question 8. To recap that, we've used question 8 to test the significance in the variances between two columns of information. The F-test is what is utilized in doing so, and as a result of that, in this analysis, we've proven that the two variances are not equal, hence we can assume that the two salaries between the two locations have differences in their variability.